You can remove that one. We won't need it. My mother-in-law, Vanessa, pointed at the chair beside my husband like she was correcting a mistake on a seating chart. The server hesitated. Ma'am. The chair, Vanessa repeated. There are only 8 people having dinner. I stared at her. Vanessa, you invited me. Every conversation around the private table stopped. She gave me that polished little smile I'd seen whenever she wanted to insult me without sounding cruel. I invited you to join us for the evening, Lydia. The tasting menu was prepaid for 8. You can wait in the lounge or order something more affordable at the bar while the family eats. The family. Apparently, after 3 years of marriage to her son, I still didn't qualify. Ethan pushed back his chair. Mom, what are you doing? Oh, please, Vanessa waved him off. Don't turn this into another situation where Lydia gets too sensitive. That was when something shifted. Because Vanessa thought she had chosen the perfect place to remind me that I didn't belong in her world. She had no idea whose restaurant she was standing in. I was 29, a graphic designer, and I'd spent most of my marriage avoiding fights with Vanessa. She liked expensive clothes, exclusive invitations, and making subtle comments about how simple my career was. I rarely corrected her assumptions. My father had taught me early that his success belonged to him. I wanted people to know me as Lydia, not as Daniel Carter's daughter. So when Vanessa called 3 days earlier and said, I think it's time we put our differences behind us. Come to dinner, I actually believed she was trying. Now I understood. This wasn't reconciliation. It was a demonstration. I can pay for my own meal, I said. Vanessa's smile tightened. That isn't the point. Then what is? Before she could answer, I noticed the maitre d' across the room. He was staring directly at me. Then the kitchen door swung open. The executive chef stepped halfway through, saw me beside Vanessa's table, and stopped cold. Vanessa followed my gaze and sighed. See, she whispered, now you're making the staff uncomfortable. Almost. The staff weren't uncomfortable because of me. They recognized me. Ethan stood. We're leaving. I touched his arm. Not yet. Vanessa blinked. Then I looked around the restaurant I had spent half my childhood running through after school, turned back to the woman who had brought me there to prove how little I belonged, and asked quietly, Vanessa, why did you choose this restaurant? For the first time that evening, her confidence flickered. And I wondered what she would say when she discovered that the man who owned the place she was using to humiliate me was the same man I called Dad. Vanessa's expression hardened. Lydia, come with me. She grabbed her clutch from the table and walked toward a quiet alcove near the private dining room. I followed, mostly because I wanted to hear what she would say when Ethan and the rest of the family weren't listening. The moment we were alone, her pleasant hostess smile disappeared. You're embarrassing yourself, she said quietly. By expecting to eat at a dinner you invited me to. By refusing to understand the situation. She glanced toward the table. Ethan's uncle is a surgeon. His cousin runs an investment firm. These people work very hard for what they have. You cannot marry into a family like ours and expect automatic access to everything we can afford. There it was. Not a reservation problem. Not a prepaid menu problem. A lesson. Vanessa leaned closer. Do you know how difficult it is to get a reservation here? I spent weeks arranging tonight. I know. She frowned at my answer. This is one of the most exclusive restaurants in the city, she continued. Frankly, being invited inside should have been enough. I stared at her. Then, why invite me if you never intended to give me a seat? Her eyes didn't move. Perhaps you needed to understand that marrying Ethan doesn't automatically make you equal to everyone in his family. For once, I didn't defend myself. My father had once told me something after a difficult customer left his restaurant. Some people think money tells the staff who matters. Good staff know better. Lydia. A young server had approached behind me. He looked nervous. Would you like me to get Mr. Carter? My eyes immediately met his. No, not yet. Vanessa turned sharply. Who is Mr. Carter? Before the server could answer, she waved him away. Please stop bothering my guest. We're handling a private family matter. He looked at me once more. I gave him a small nod. He left. Vanessa folded her arms, apparently satisfied that she'd finally made her point. Behind her, Ethan was already reaching for his jacket. I walked over and touched his hand. Don't leave yet. Lydia, you don't have to sit through this. I know. I looked toward Vanessa. But I'm done standing. Then I walked back to the private table. Vanessa followed me. Lydia, what are you doing? I reached for the chair she'd ordered removed, pulled it back into place beside Ethan, and sat down. Excuse me. Vanessa's voice cut across the private dining room. She stared at me sitting beside Ethan, then turned sharply toward the nearest server. I already asked you to remove that chair. Nobody moved. Ethan leaned forward. Mom, enough. No, Ethan, we have a reservation for 8. You invited my wife here just to humiliate her. If Lydia isn't eating, neither am I. Vanessa glanced around the table. Everyone was watching now, and I could see the calculation on her face. Backing down would mean admitting she had created this situation deliberately. So she pointed toward the place setting. The restaurant has rules. The tasting menu was prepaid. They cannot simply add another person because Lydia feels excluded. That was a mistake. I looked at her. That isn't the restaurant's policy. Vanessa actually laughed. And how would you know? I didn't answer. Instead, I turned toward the maitre d'. Can the kitchen accommodate one additional tasting menu tonight? His response came immediately. Of course, Lydia. The room went quiet. Vanessa blinked. Then she recovered quickly. Fine, but somebody has to pay for it. I will. No. That single word exposed everything. Ethan stared at her. Then this was never about the money. Vanessa's face flushed. This is a private family dinner. I held her gaze. I'm Ethan's wife. She lowered her voice, but not enough. This dinner is for my family ****. Ethan shoved his chair backward. His uncle looked down at his plate. His cousin suddenly became fascinated with her water glass. Nobody could pretend they hadn't heard her. I could have walked out then. But if I did, Vanessa would spend the next week explaining that there had been a reservation mix-up and I had overreacted. Not this time. I stood. Vanessa gave a satisfied little smile, apparently thinking she'd finally won. Instead, I turned toward the maitre d'. Could you do something for me? Certainly. I glanced once at Vanessa. Then I said the words that wiped the smile from her face. Could you ask the owner to come out, please? For half a second, Vanessa looked worried. Then she laughed. You're asking for the owner? Yes. She shook her head and glanced around the table as if she needed everyone else to appreciate how ridiculous I was being. Lydia, making a scene at a restaurant like this isn't going to help you. I'm not complaining about the restaurant. That stopped her. Then what exactly are you doing? Before I could answer, the maitre d' stepped closer. I'll let Mr. Carter know you're here, Lydia. Vanessa's eyes snapped toward him. You know her. He remained professional. Yes, ma'am. The kitchen door opened again. This time, the executive chef came all the way out. Lydia, he said, approaching me, is everything okay? I'm fine, thank you. Vanessa wasn't smiling anymore. Neither was Ethan. He looked from the chef to me. Wait, how does everyone here know you? My dad works in hospitality, I said. That's what you've always told me. It's true. Vanessa scoffed. Then perhaps your father taught you that causing trouble in someone else's establishment is inappropriate. I looked at her. My father taught me never to use his name to win an argument. Vanessa turned toward the manager. I would like her removed from this room. The manager didn't move. I think we should wait for Mr. Carter. Now Vanessa went completely still. Footsteps sounded from the main dining room. A man in a dark suit appeared at the entrance. Daniel Carter. My father. He had apparently finished the meeting he'd been holding upstairs, because he still carried a folder beneath one arm. Vanessa straightened immediately. Mr. Carter. Dad's eyes moved past her and landed on me. Then he noticed the extra chair, the untouched place setting, Ethan standing beside me, and the silence around the table. Vanessa rushed forward. I'm Vanessa Whitmore. There's been a small misunderstanding with my daughter-in-law. Dad walked straight past her. He wrapped one arm around me. Sweetheart, he said, looking genuinely confused. Why didn't you tell me you were having dinner here tonight? Behind him, Vanessa's mouth fell open. For several seconds, Vanessa said nothing. Her eyes moved from my father to me, then to the maitre d', as if she were replaying every conversation we'd had since walking through the doors. I stepped beside Dad. Vanessa, I said calmly, meet my dad. Her face changed instantly. Your father. Daniel Carter. Dad extended his hand politely. Nice to meet you. Vanessa stared at it before finally shaking it. Suddenly, everything she hadn't understood made sense. Why the maitre d' recognized me. Why the chef came out of the kitchen. Why I knew the private room could seat 10. Why I knew another tasting menu could be added. Dad had founded the restaurant years ago. I had spent countless afternoons there growing up, doing homework in his office, and watching him build the place into what it had become. I simply never used his success as my introduction. Vanessa swallowed. Well, this is awkward. Ethan folded his arms. No, Mom, what you did was awkward. She immediately turned defensive. There was a misunderstanding with the reservation. No, Ethan said, there wasn't. The table fell silent again. You told my wife this dinner was for your family. Vanessa looked toward the relatives, but nobody rescued her. Dad looked at me. Lydia, did Vanessa invite you tonight? Yes. And when you arrived, she told you that you couldn't eat? Yes. Vanessa stepped forward. Daniel, surely you understand. The tasting menu was prepaid and I was told. The kitchen already confirmed they could accommodate Lydia, Dad said evenly. So please don't blame my staff. That ended it. Dad didn't yell. He didn't threaten to throw Vanessa out. He simply asked the server to restore my place setting. If Lydia wants dinner, she gets dinner, he said. Not because she's my daughter, because you invited her and my staff already told you we can accommodate her. Vanessa slowly returned to her chair. But the authority she'd walked in with was gone. Everyone at that table now understood what the evening had actually been. She hadn't accidentally forgotten me on a reservation. She had invited me specifically so she could exclude me. Ethan reached for my hand. We're leaving. Vanessa looked up. Ethan. No. His voice was calm. We're not doing this anymore. If Lydia's place in this family is something you think you can switch on and off whenever you want to make a point, then we won't attend. I squeezed his hand. We didn't stay for dessert. Dad didn't cancel Vanessa's reservation, embarrass her in front of other customers, or give her special treatment. She received exactly what she'd booked, including the bill. No family discount. No punishment. Just the normal consequences of the evening she'd arranged herself. Outside, Ethan stopped beside me. Why didn't you ever tell Mom about your dad? I looked back through the restaurant windows. Because I wanted her to respect me without needing a reason. He nodded slowly. And she couldn't. No. That night changed more than one dinner. Ethan stopped asking me to overlook his mother's comments just to keep the peace. And I stopped accepting invitations that came with hidden tests attached. Over the following months, we established one simple boundary with Vanessa. If I was invited somewhere, I was treated like family. If I was going to be insulted, excluded, or used to make someone else feel important, we wouldn't attend. Vanessa didn't like it, but she understood we meant it. We still saw her occasionally, but the dynamic was different. She could no longer embarrass me and expect Ethan to smooth things over afterward. And I didn't suddenly start introducing myself as Daniel Carter's daughter everywhere I went. I stayed Lydia. I kept my graphic design career. I kept building a life that belonged to me. The only thing I stopped doing was confusing silence with keeping the peace. Vanessa had walked into my father's restaurant believing the reservation, the prices, and the exclusivity gave her power over me. What embarrassed her most wasn't discovering who my father was. It was realizing I could have told her from the beginning and never needed to. Vanessa invited me to my father's restaurant to show me I didn't belong at her table and walked out knowing she would never decide where I belonged again.